Welcome to the space, guys. We're 50 minutes late, but not a problem. We will continue. Obviously, we've done this space to bring Zeeshan, myself, and James together. Obviously, in my opinion, I believe James is a racist and is an Islamophobe based off his own tweets, which I've shared with people. No, I've been very transparent about this, James. You know, I have. Based off your tweets and based off the things I've seen, I've come to that conclusion. When someone said to you the other day, he tweeted, "You're a racist," and you just replied, "And," like basically sort of confirming it, right, or glorifying it. So that you know that to me is very. It's just wrong. But James, just for the sake of the space, so people that may not know you, can you just introduce yourself, please, James?
Yeah, my name's James Goddard. I'm a far-right Christian nationalist, and I campaign for making sure that Britain stays British, so the majority of people in Britain are from Britain. I currently see out my days by the swimming pool, posting racist and anti-Semitic and homosexual and transphobic rhetoric from the safety of my swimming pool, really. I've been looking forward to having this chat with, is it Zeeshan? I think, if this is the guy that I think it is, I think this guy's, he's been around since I started my activism. It might have been someone else though, so we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm looking forward.
Yeah, this is the brown guy that you referred to, the brown guy.
Yeah, your brown friend.
And he's not my brown friend. He's my friend. There's
well, he's your friend. He's brown, so he's a brown friend.
No, there's not skin. I don't see skin color. He's my friend.
Yeah, it's a joke, mate. You need to lighten up.
No, that's not funny though, because there's a lot of people in the space that'll be deeply offended by that. That's not funny.
That's their problem, isn't it, mate?
No, that's your problem.
Well, it's not.
Now, Johnny, it's all right.
Crying, don't interrupt.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about
all right.
You know, issues that are much more kind of deeper than this. I mean, this is yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So where do you want to kickstart this? This obviously, I put the title, James, Islam and Immigration. Does that sound something? Is that
yeah? But I just want to reiterate that my problem isn't just with Islam; it's with immigration as a whole. So you can't just say, "Oh, it's Muslims," because it's not just Muslims. Yeah. I don't want to.
Can I just jump in? Yeah. So James, firstly, thanks for coming. Thanks for giving your time. Hopefully this will be a productive conversation. I've been looking forward to it. I haven't been in the scene too long, so yeah, maybe it was someone else that you're referring to. I've only been going Speaker's Corner for the last couple of years. And to be honest, going through your feed, I've tried to be as just as possible. So I've found you to be quite an interesting individual. That's why it's kind of motivated me to have this conversation with you, because I find you to be more consistent than other right-wing activists. What I mean by that is you hold certain views that, say, the Tommy guys don't hold. I'll just give a few that I've come across, and of course you can kind of build on that, because you're absolutely right. It's not just the anti-Islam point that you give. I find you to be more consistent than most. So in terms of, I'd say, interference in Russia, you're very clear. You're saying that, of course, we shouldn't need to go there. That's not our problem. In fact, I even saw a tweet in which you're saying Israel, Palestine, I don't have to pick a side. Again, that's not our problem. Again, I agree with you on both of these issues. You're consistent in terms of Indians as well. You're very passionate and they're very passionate against you as well, which Tommy Robinson is not. Tommy Robinson does and is okay and does want them to come, and that's the migration that he's okay with, which I know yourself you're not okay with. And also another thing that was surprising was that to see your acknowledgement of the Zionist influence over the US and the UK as well. So have I mischaracterized you, or that sound about right?
No, that probably sounds about right. Carry on, mate.
Yeah, so based upon that, mate, yeah, I do have a respect for you that I probably would have less respect for somebody else, because somebody that has a position and they're consistent, you got to respect that. When it comes to other people, when they show inconsistencies, like Piers Morgan, he's showing one stance when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, another stance when it comes to Palestine and Israel. That's inconsistent. When Tommy Robinson is talking about immigration, however, on the other hand, he's saying, yeah, but Indians are fine, and yeah, Sikhs are fine, and this and that. It shows inconsistency when there is blatant financial Zionist support for the likes of Tommy Robinson, when we know the impact that they're having in US and UK politics. To see somebody like yourself that's a bit more consistent, that's something, again, I can respect. So kicking that off, I just wanted to kind of set the standard and set the scene that let's unpack things together, and I want to unpack your views, and I will of course give you time and the floor to talk about your positions.
Before James, I want to give you sort of my position as well. So James refers to me as a Muslim simp, right? I'm not a Muslim simp, but what I try to do, James, is I try to have a moral consistency regardless of where you come from, right? So I don't care whether you're Muslim, you're Sikh, Hindu, black, pink, purple, fat, skinny, I don't care. I want to apply a consistent standard across the board, yeah. And I think like when people don't do that, and they have selective morality, I think that's an immoral position to take. So where I agree with you, James. I agree. Immigration is there's too much immigrants coming in. I do agree with that, right? We ultimately England or the UK is for all sense and for all essentially it's a big island, right? We are not a big country. We can only take in so many people. So I agree with you, James. Where we need to, in my opinion, right now I would stop immigration. I just shut it up completely because I think we've got far too many problems in house that we need to deal with without letting in more people. And I don't care where that person they may come from, Australia, America, Iraq, Russia, Siberia. I don't care. We need to fix problems in house before we start to think about letting more people in. I think where it comes to you is you seem to identify that. This is just my opinion, James. That, and you can clarify your own position in a second. But in my opinion, you seem to target ethnic minorities as if to say, well, if we get rid of all these ethnic minorities, all of a sudden our house is going to be stable and prosperous and flourishing. And I think that's where we have a lot of disagreements. And I don't like the way, based off your tweets, the way you target Muslims and you target immigrants. I think you're targeting them without understanding how they've become to get here in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying, James?
No, that's a complete fallacy. That's complete utter rubbish. I call out immigration in the UK, and the immigration that I call out is the immigration that's completely incompatible. When we're spending billions of pounds on housing people that have illegally entered the UK, and we leave 300,000 homeless people that were born and raised in the UK, like then we've got issues. So for me, immigration is something if you look at all of the posts that I make, especially in regards to crime, I talk about the crimes that could have been prevented, because if we didn't let these people in the country, the crimes wouldn't have been committed in the first place. And you have to apply that. Emily Jones in Bolton, she was killed by an Albanian immigrant whose sister worked in the diplomatic services, right? She should still be alive. Josh, George, and Harry, they were murdered as they were making their way to a friend's 16th birthday party. Again, they were murdered by somebody that shouldn't have been in the country, that wasn't born in the country. So for me, and the thing is, I do understand the immigration argument. I've lived around the world. I've lived in Spain. I currently live in Thailand. So I know that you can have acceptable forms of immigration. But the problem is in the UK, it's not an acceptable form of immigration when we've just got a revolving door, and then we're allowing millions of people to come into the country that are then in receipt of state welfare. So they've contributed nothing, and they come over to the UK. Now, I know what you'll say. You'll say, "Oh well, foreign policy. You shouldn't have gone bombing the countries." Yeah, I agree. British foreign policy is absolutely atrocious. It's created a generation of hatred from Muslims, because obviously you've got the war with Iraq, you've got the war with Afghanistan, you've got the fact that previous American presidents have gone bombing the Middle East. But you can't use the argument of, well, Britain's gone and invaded other countries, so now you've got to accept millions of people that don't.
All right, James, don't say too many things in one go, because then it's just going to be monologue versus monologue. Try to say one thing, and then we can go back and forth to keep it a bit fresh. Yeah.
In regards to immigration, then I'm against both legal and illegal immigration in the UK. If you had steady numbers that were coming in and out, and I'm talking like your tens of thousands each year, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. But
James, you also mentioned you're a migrant in Thailand as well, right?
well, I'm not a migrant. I'm currently traveling the world, but I've got a different perspective because I'm living in somebody else's country as a foreigner. But I just want to reiterate that, yeah, I'm in somebody else's country as a foreigner, but I would never act the way in which I see migrants act in the United Kingdom. I wouldn't dare
But
go.
you've been living there for about a year, right?
I've been in Thailand for nearly 2 years.
2 years. That's the definition of a migrant, no?
Not really, because I'm on a non-immigrant visa. And let me just compare the two. Me being in Thailand isn't the same as Abdul leaving Iran or Afghanistan, making his way across to Europe, raping some European kids along the way, and then getting on a ferry, getting on a boat and coming over to the UK. I'm here, I contribute to the system, I'm learning the language, and I have a respect for the country because I'm a guest in this country at the end of the day. They can revoke my visa at any time, and if they choose to do that, then that's entirely up to them. But I don't think you can compare me being in Southeast Asia and compare it with fighting age men invading the UK, stopping in hotels at the taxpayers' expenses, and then going on to rape, murder, and pillage the population. I think they're completely different scenarios.
But James,
I don't think
go on,
that's the
Steve, sorry.
definition. I don't think that's the definition of a migrant and a non-migrant if you just live in hotels and then you rape people. I think a migrant, the definition of a migrant is when you go from one country to another country, you pass a border, you can stay there for a week, a month, a year, 2 years. It makes you a migrant. That's the definition of a migrant. I mean, we can spin it however we want, but I mean, that was a side point as it is. But
Just
the
let me
main point
interrupt you. Hold on, because you're saying
yeah.
I'm a migrant. You obviously unfamiliar with Thailand's legal situations. Like, yeah, I might be in this country. I'm on a non-immigrant visa. I don't have any rights in Thailand. I've got no human rights. I've got no say in any of the politics that goes on here, and neither would I expect to either. It's not my country. I'm respectful of this country because at the end of the day, it's not mine. Thailand is a majority Buddhist country. Yeah, you've got Muslims here as well. I actually think the Muslims in Thailand are a lot nicer than the ones that you get in Europe. And I did say this to George Galloway. Perhaps it was the type of Muslim that the UK was bringing in. Instead of bringing in, Muslims from these backward places like Pakistan, Somalia, Bangladesh, perhaps if we ventured out and we actually got Muslims from like Malaysia and Thailand, they might actually be nicer.
All right, we're kind of going into a number of topics. I mean, the migrant definition that I was talking about is the typical dictionary definition. I mean, Thailand, I'm sure they've got their own methodologies in place on how they kind of view people that come into their country, and that's fair enough.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
up
an
to them.
alien, mate. That's what I'm classed as. On my
No
form, it
problem,
says
no
that I'm an
problem.
alien.
So here's my question: when crimes are done by Indians, because I went through, of course, your posts, I didn't want to misrepresent you. When crimes are done by Indians, you don't post their religion, only their nationality.
Well, I
When
think
whites do a crime,
it's
sorry if I can just finish my point.
on.
Sorry. When whites do a crime, you only post their names. But when it's a colored person, you will often highlight their skin color. And when it comes to somebody that's brown, you'll highlight their religion, more specifically Islam. Why the double standard?
It's not a double standard, really. The reason why, when you say it's an Indian, usually most people have the presumption that an Indian is a Hindu anyway. So the way I report on crime, yeah, I do mention the specific racial or religious group because, again, it's crimes that could have been prevented. We don't need Indians in the UK committing loads of crime. Again, it's an imported problem.
You only mention Muslims, no other
No, I
religious
don't. I
adherents.
mention it. All right. So if I talk about a crime that's been committed by Muslims, yeah, I'll mention the fact that it's a Muslim. If it's an African,
How do you know they're Muslim? Because the article doesn't mention that they're
because you
Muslim.
can usually tell by the name, and then you do some research into where the name's from, and you look into it. It's not rocket science, mate.
You can do the same for an Indian. You can find out from the name if they're a Hindu. You can do the same for a Christian if they've got a biblical name. Why only with Muslims and Islam?
It's not
That's
just
what I'm
with
saying.
Muslims and Islam. It's with all foreigners in general. All the
You've
crime.
never done it with Christians or Hindus.
Well, I don't need to do it with Christians, do I? Because I'm biased towards Christians and white people. I'm ethnocentric. I'm not gonna stand here and say, "Oh, I'm completely neutral." I'm not. I'm biased. I want a country that benefits white British people. And
But James, but 1 second. Even if you're biased towards Christians, and that's fine. If you're biased towards Christians, but then why are Sikhs being like? Why is still like brown people come of all forms of religion? Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, right? Buddhists, and even Christians, and even Jewish people, right? So why are you not highlighting other religions when it's brown people? But you've got there's no consistency, and that's what this is what Zeeshan's pointing out.
Well, there is consistency because I focus my post, the majority, on crimes that are committed by foreigners that shouldn't be in the UK. So I am very consistent. I consistently call out foreigners. It doesn't matter if they're
No,
African.
but the
Doesn't matter.
question is,
Hold
just
on,
because they
please
have a
don't
Muslim
interrupt me,
name.
Smile2Jannah, Aki. Please don't interrupt me. You've just asked me something. I'm giving you the answer, and you're not liking what I'm saying. So you're trying to branch.
No. You can, but I'd like you to extend that courtesy to me as well. Then.
Be a good boy. Stop interrupting. At the end.
No, I can wait for you. No problem. I'd rather you did the same.
Okay, 1 second. To be fair, we've all interrupted each other. Let's not all be hypocrites. We've all done it a little bit, right? So let's be consistent. Again, we're not being consistent now. I've interrupted James, Zeeshan, as you have. We've all done it.
Yeah,
So
as long as he doesn't interrupt me, I'm happy to listen to his monologue. But because he's interrupted me and suddenly now he wants to take the high ground, I don't think that's logical or fair.
I've had the high ground from the start. I'm morally right. I know that I am.
On what basis? Where's your evidence?
I'm right on everything. What I talk about is repatriation. I focus my posts on migrant crime and immigration. I'm consistent because I consistently post about it every day. It doesn't matter if it's a Muslim, an African, or an Indian that's committed the crime. The way I see it is they shouldn't be in the United Kingdom. So I'll always post about it. And the majority of the time, if when I do say that it's a Muslim, in some cases you've got crimes that are committed by people that some people may not know that it's a Muslim that's committed the crime. So I just think it's important that I highlight it. There's nothing personal.
Yet you don't highlight anybody else.
No, but here's the thing. When it comes to a person with a Muslim name, you're assuming that they're a Muslim, and then you're assuming that by highlighting that their religion has somehow played a part in that crime.
Excuse me.
However, when
Smile2Jannah, are we all born Muslim? Yes.
Sorry,
or
are
not?
you interrupting me now?
Yeah.
Are you scared of what I'm saying?
No. I just wanted to ask you, are we all born Muslim?
No. Let's do it both ways now. Now, when I speak, you're going to listen, because if you don't want me interrupting you, then that's fine. I will wait for you to finish, and then you wait for me to finish. So, like I was saying, I'm going to highlight this point that whenever you talk about Indians with clear Hindu names, you do not mention their religion. You don't say a Hindu has done this. When it comes to a Christian, you don't say that, oh, he's got the name Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, or Paul. Oh, a Christian individual has done this. Why? Because highlighting the fact that they're Christian shows that the religion has played a part in that crime. That's the hypocrisy that's being highlighted over here.
You finished?
Yes, I have. That point, yeah.
Right. But it's not hypocrisy if I met in some cases, if somebody's called, I don't know, Vishnu Patel, I don't need to say, guys, it's a Hindu. I think it's pretty common sense that it's a Hindu. If you're getting offended because I highlight the fact of the ethnicity or the religion of the person that commits the crime, maybe they shouldn't commit the crime in the first place, and I wouldn't have to talk about it. At the end of the day, I didn't accept it. I wasn't asked if I wanted uncontrolled mass migration. I wasn't asked if I wanted millions of Muslims in the UK. I wasn't asked if I wanted millions of Africans in the UK or millions of Indians. So I believe that it's my right to call out the horrific and barbaric crimes that these people commit, because number one, they shouldn't be in the UK in the first place. And at the end of the day, each day that they stay in the UK, my people become less safe. You're seeing kids raped, you're seeing kids attacked, and it's all it all stems from immigration. Take away immigration, and you take away half the crime that's committed in the UK. And you can't say that I'm lying, because you only have to open up the local newspapers to see the amount of crime that are committed from the people that you'd welcome into your communities. So yeah, I've always spoken out about it, and I always will do, lads.
Let me just go on a sec. So first of all, when you only highlight Muslims and their religion and nobody else,
that's wrong. That's
the definition. Or that is literally. Please, I didn't interrupt you, so please do me the same courtesy. That's the definition of hypocrisy. You're not being consistent. You're highlighting one and not the other. That is hypocrisy. There's no getting away. You cannot spin that. You can't spin your way out of that. That is hypocrisy. Second point, if you look at the Home Office report of 2020, right, because you're saying, oh, immigrants are half the problem. First of all, that you're implying that all immigrants are sex offenders, all immigrants want to rape children, which is literally a gross exaggeration, because most people want to come to the country and work. I'm not saying there's not a percentage that are fucking wrong and they need to be kicked out. Completely agree with you. But you're basically saying to everyone, now, if you're an immigrant, you're a fucking wrong by definition. That's what you're saying, right? Last point. If you read the Home Office report of 2020, right, it states in there that most sexual group exploitation is done by white men.
Here we go. Right.
No, it's not about here we go, no, but we have to
but
stick to the facts.
No, but let's stick to the facts. The reason the majority of, say, sexual crime is committed by white men is because the majority of people in the country are white men. At the end of the day, immigrants, migrants, browns, Africans, whatever you want to call them, these people are overrepresented in the statistics, and the majority of them do rape kids. Look at the types that are coming in off the boats. Look at them. They've got double-digit IQs. They don't believe in civil discourse. They're not civilized. You know, you can take the savage out of the third world, but you can't take the third world out of the savage. And I'm sorry, I'm not willing to play Russian roulette with my children's life. I'm not up for hugging a migrant, mate. I'm up for kicking them out, and I want them gone. At the end of the day, the UK is our country. It was our ancestors that made our country great, and they didn't do it so Abdul, Leroy, and whoever else could, you know, benefit from all of the hard work that our ancestors put in over the years. So no, I'll always speak out about immigration because I'm a living and breathing embodiment of my ancestors.
So hypocrisy
Sorry,
strikes
John,
again.
if I can just jump in, because he made some points beforehand, which was when it came to a Hindu, he said it's common sense. But when it comes to an individual called Muhammad, his religion isn't common sense. I mean, that's insulting the intelligence of the British public, I would have thought. Sorry, I haven't finished. If I can finish my point. Can I finish my point?
James, you got to let him finish, James.
Just stop misrepresenting what I'm saying then, because you're being...
Well, then when it's your turn, you can speak.
You can retort afterwards.
You can wait, mate. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. You can wait, and I'll give you your time to speak. Sorry?
I said, you need to have a bit more respect when you're speaking to me, yeah?
You're the one that's interrupting, and I'm the one that needs respect.
First of all, we're all equal here, right? So just sort your attitude out, James, because we're both speaking to you maturely and respectfully, right? So you're not above me and I'm not above you. And it's the same with Zeeshan. We're all equal here. So stop the attitude and the bravado. It's not productive. It's not needed. Thank you.
Yeah, so when it came to Hindu, he said, "Oh, it's common sense." But when it's a guy called Muhammad, and he's highlighted this in his post, "Oh, it's not common sense," he has to highlight the fact that he's Muslim for his fans, which, I mean, I'm assuming that he believes that they're low-key people. Second point that I wanted to mention is this notion, and I've seen this littered around his posts. And yes, I use the word littered because he says third world savages. Firstly, who's decided that they're third world? Third world as opposed to what? First world? The pedos here in the first world? The white people that are going to Gambia and Thailand that are raping little children? Oh, this is the first world? Well, let's behave ourselves. And when you're posting things like blacks should be grateful for slavery, were it not for slavery, they would be dancing around the fire in Africa sacrificing babies. Oh, wait, they're still doing that. And then another post of yours, foreigners are absolute savages. I'll ask you a question very simply, and then if you can prove your statement. Do you think that your culture is superior to that of, say, Asia and Africa?
100%, yes.
In what sense?
We created the modern world. That's why you're all in the West, aren't you? Because you're desperate. Because let's face it, only white people can really build civilization. That's why half of the third world wants to come to the West. They're jealous. They want to be us. They want to live in the West. So yeah, I'm a Western supremacist, mate.
So just before you go back to Zeeshan,
okay, Johnny, sorry, we're in a flow here. Yeah, I don't wanna ruin the flow. So he says we've created the modern world. Well, my question to you is, what world are you living in? Because from the 4th century to the 16th century, all we've had is Muslim empires. You had Muslim empires, and even Elizabeth I that was reaching out to these empires for assistance when the Catholics were badgering her because of her father, Henry VIII. And when you're talking about 10 centuries that facilitated the Renaissance 10 centuries that facilitated the Enlightenment period. So when you say the modern world and we've created it, I'm sorry, what history are you referring to? Can you give me some examples or just pure rhetoric?
White men built the modern world. The way that you're currently communicating with me now is due to a white man. Yeah? Like, you need to accept that that white Western people did build the modern world. Look at all the inventions, the internet, cars, planes. It was all built by white people, and yet I'm expected to tolerate third worlders that have got no history, that have got no achievements. I'm supposed to accept them coming into the UK and accept them as my equals. I don't think so. Like, and this is not from a place of hatred either, but my ancestors were great enough. My ancestors were great. They built a fabulous country, the United Kingdom. They handed that country down to the next generation. And because the previous generation to us have been a bit limp-wristed and a bit soft on immigration, it's then allowed millions of people like you to come into the UK that have got a chip on your shoulder because you hate the achievements of the British Empire, because you're jealous, because no Islamic empire could ever reach the dizzying heights that the British Empire achieved. So you're jealous. So that's why you're mentioning it. But at the end of the day, I will always be proud of the achievements of my ancestors and the countries that we built. So yeah, I am proud of that, and I'll always defend it.
So James, have you ever heard of the House of Wisdom?
Go on.
No, I'm asking you, have you ever heard of it?
No.
Because you say apparently these Muslims they never achieved anything intellectually. Apparently, you never heard of the
Here we
House of
go.
Wisdom,
You're going
no?
to go for the golden age of Islam now and how algebra.
No. I'm asking you. No, apparently they've never achieved anything. Have you heard of the House of Wisdom?
Well, I'm asking you to explain it for me. So go on then.
So it used to be the intellectual center in Baghdad.
Yeah.
You know that place that we bombed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where people from all over the world would go over there to do their learning, do degrees that like learn about and expand their horizons. You know, this is apparently this was Muslim centric, Islam centric.
Right. What's
But
your
apparently
point?
they've never achieved anything.
In comparison to my ancestors,
Have you heard of Mansa Musa? Have you heard of Mansa Musa?
I might have. Yeah. I'm comparing it in regards to achievements of my ancestors. Yeah, I'm biased. I think the West is the best.
No, but I'm asking. Okay, so who's Mansa Musa?
Is he a Muslim guy?
Is he a Muslim guy?
Yeah. Just explain it.
Just say you've never heard of him.
Yeah. Go on, explain it then.
Yeah, he was the king of the Mali Empire in the late 14th century.
Oh, the guy that was the richest man on the planet.
One of the richest men in the world, yeah. And guess what? He amassed his wealth. He amassed his wealth through production, not through slavery, not through oppression. Yeah, but so when you speak highly from your ivory tower of our ancestors, people that look like me and you, that have gone all across the globe and oppressed people, and slaughtered people, and exploited people. Yeah,
Johnny, it might derail into a colonization discussion, but I wanted to respond to some of his talking points with regards to the inventions he was talking about. So with regards to the inventions that you mentioned the laptop, you mentioned planes and all of this sort of stuff. I mean, your laptop relies on something called algorithm, and algorithm comes from, the word itself comes from the Latinized version of al-Khwarizmi, algorithmi, yeah, which again was an individual who also gave us algebra as well, which is necessary for your society to function. Secondly, you talked about aeroplanes. Yeah, the first solo flyer was somebody called Abbas ibn Firnas. So the more we continue, the more we realize that, again, the people that you respect, and again, there's no harm in believing that your country is amazing and fantastic, but you should be balanced and give credit where credit is due. And the credit, even if you look at Isaac Newton, he's somebody that's regarded as, the main intellectual here in the UK. Some argue that he's even greater than Einstein. But his teacher, Isaac Barrow, he was somebody that studied calculus in Turkey. Yes, Turkey. Copernicus, who gave us heliocentrism. And you know what? He cited 5 Islamic authors in his book De Revolutionibus. And he was the initiator of the scientific revolution. He mentioned the likes of Ibn Rushd, Al-Batani, Al-Bitruji, Al-Zarqalu, and Thabit ibn Qurra. Even when you look at Oxford and Cambridge, originally they were Bible schools, and their first non-religious department was Arabic. Why Arabic? James, if Muslims are just backwards savages that haven't really delivered anything. It's because you needed their books. You needed to learn the language so you could get their books. Even if you look at the Supreme Court, they've got 18 statues up there, and one of the statues is of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, holding a Quran. Why on earth would they do that if we are backward savages that have delivered nothing to the modern world? The US Library of Congress, up there in its dome, it says Islam when it comes to physics. Oh, you're talking about science and technology. I'm pretty sure you need physics for science and technology, not to mention Capitol Hill, which has got a picture of Suleiman the Magnificent there. If that's not all, even if you look in the earlier works of Shakespeare, 16th and 17th century, he gives 50 references to the Islamic world with works like, don't know if you've heard of these, Othello, Merchant of Venice, and Andronicus. Why would he be mentioning these Muslims, these brownies, or these black people? Even when you look at the words that you're using today, blighty, the right wing love the word blighty. Where did the word blighty come from? Yes, it's an Indian word. Yeah, it comes from the word Valeti. Valeti means foreigner, and it's been stretched and changed, and the right wing has no clue that they're actually using words borrowed from the Indian language. What do you have to say for that, James?
It doesn't really bother me, really. I don't think it's that relevant to what we were actually talking about. I will say that your Asian accent comes out a bit when you're angry, which made me laugh a bit. But in regards to it, what I'm not at the end of the day, if so much knowledge and experience is held in the West, then why are you all in Europe? And let me just make a distinction. There's a distinction between Muslims and Arabs. Overall, Muslims genuinely have a lower IQ, but from what I've experienced myself, Arabs seem to be a lot smarter than your run-of-the-mill Pakistani, Indian, Somalian, Bangladeshi Muslim. So I don't really have that much of an issue with Arabs because they're quite clean people as well. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to give away concessions to a civilization and a people and a religion actually that I think is inferior. Um, I've made no I make no mistakes about who I am. I'm a representative of white Britain. I stand for white British people. I'm a Christian, and I believe in Britain for the British. So that's exactly how I am. In regards to the whole algebra thing, I'm not really that fussed. You can't really say that, oh, the golden age of Islam and everything, because if you look at the 55 or 57 Muslim countries in the world, barring Dubai and a couple of others, they're really still primitive third world hellholes. So yeah, that's how I am on it.
That's laughable because
Well, it's not.
you're,
Have you ever been to
you're the
India
one
or
that brought up. Sorry,
Pakistan?
it's my turn now. You're the
Well, no,
one
you've
that
just
brought up. You're
interrupted
the
me
one that
again.
brought up. Sorry, you're the one that brought up inventions. You're the one that's saying, "Oh, the laptop. Oh, the plane." And suddenly, I give you a list of things that you've never heard of in your life. Rather than being grateful, you're saying, "Oh, well, I don't really care about that." No problem. You don't care about that. That's fine. But if you actually bother to live in this country that you care about, and the whites that you seem to be fighting for, sitting over there by the pool in Thailand with your lady boyfriends, you would know that the NHS is relying upon health professionals from large Muslim populations. Oh, what am I saying? By the way, I'm born in Britain. I don't say I'm English, but I am British and I'm proud
You're
of this
not
country. I'm
British.
proud of these people. If I can finish my point, I clearly don't like what I'm saying. So, the large
I'm just
Muslim
correcting you. You're not
populations,
British.
India, Pakistani, and Middle East. 20% of this quote unquote low IQ people that you're talking about, 26% of them are either Asian or Asian British. You can check this up on the Institute for Public Policy Research. If you actually look here in the UK, 95% of British Muslims feel a loyalty to the UK. British Muslims contribute 31 billion to the UK economy. That's billion with a B. 114,548 Muslims are in higher managerial, administrative, and professional occupations in England and Wales. In London alone, 13,400 Muslim businesses have created over 70,000 jobs. So pardon me for saying you're talking out of your backside, mate. I'm the one giving facts. You don't seem to really be quoting much facts, just emotion. He said, she said, or I think this and I think that. You haven't really brought much to the table. You lay an accusation. However, when you're then given and that accusation is refuted, all you say is, oh, your accent came out a little bit. Who cares if my Borat accent comes out and say, I like this. It's very nice. So what, mate? What's that got to do with anything? Deal with the argument at hand, mate. I can even do a good Mr. Bean accent. That might come out every now and then. Who cares? Refute the point that I'm saying, mate.
Right. Are you finished? So, number one, you're going on about a point about algebra. Yeah. Muslims might have invented algebra. You didn't invent the internet and you didn't invent phones, did you? And you've struggled to invent a toilet because many of you still wash your backsides with your hands. So if you want to go down that one, I'll start to be disrespectful. But you're talking about me living in Thailand and being round the pool with a lady boy. Firstly, I'm here with my 3-year-old son, and I got
He never
out of
said
the
you. He never said you, James. He
Hold
never
on,
said
Johnny. Stop
No, but he never said you.
interrupting
No,
me.
but don't misrepresent what he said. He didn't say that. He said people go to Thailand. He said people.
Yeah,
That's not
listen,
you.
excuse me. Let me finish the
Yeah, but
point. You
don't
don't have to
misrepresent what
come.
he said.
Well, I'm not, because obviously it was aimed at me. So
No, it
if
wasn't
you're
aimed at you.
so
He's making a
can
general point that people go to Thailand and they shag ladyboys. That's a fact.
Johnny, I can see why people don't like you because you keep interrupting people. Let me finish the point
Oh,
that I'm
the
making.
hypocrisy strikes
No,
again.
just let me finish the point. Stop being incontinently emotional. This is pathetic. At the end of the day,
I'm calm. It's you that can't handle yourself.
Stop.
Relax.
I'm fucking fine, mate. It's 2:30 in the morning. I've woke up to come and have a chat with your brown friend, and you keep interrupting me every time I try and speak. At the end of the
One sec, this is the first mute. Do not speak to Zeeshan as a brown friend. I'm not going to tolerate that. Period. I'm not tolerating that. Stop it.
Right, am I allowed to speak again now? Right. Okay. So we were talking about the inventions, right? So at the end of the day, I've championed my people and the stuff that they've invented. So Zeeshan has come back with, oh, well, Muslims created algebra. Yeah, okay, you've created algebra, but you didn't create the internet and you didn't invent mobile phones. And at the end of the day, I view Islam in the UK as a hostile, occupying force. And at the end of the day, if we're going to get onto the Islamic subject, then we'll talk about how Islamic expansionism is detrimental to the people of Europe. If you want to go down that path, I'm not really too fussed about the whole scripture and religious argument. But if you want to talk facts about the Muslim contribution in the UK over the past 25 years, then let me know, Zeeshan, because we can discuss all the terrorist attacks, we can discuss all of the Islamic rape gangs. In fact, why don't we discuss the fact that Pakistani family members covered up white British girls being raped by other Pakistani men? Let's talk about that. Because do you agree with me that those people should be deported for the crimes that they've committed against innocent white children?
I actually go one step forward. I think they should be hanged. Forget deporting them. They should be hanged if they've been convicted and it's been proved. Why don't you say hanged, James? Why just deported? Why give it to another country? If you're abusing kids, mate, you should be hanged. Pakistani, Bengali, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, hang them all, mate. Hang them all.
Okay, so what I want to ask you is, because
Do
Johnny
you
seems to...
disagree?
No, I don't disagree. I think that anybody that hurts a child, that's the one thing that I do agree on, the Sharia law aspect. I think that we should start punishing Muslims via their own Sharia law. So the ones that commit heinous, violent sexual acts against children should be punished by their own scripture, which in many cases would mean they'd be murdered. I believe that the West has been too soft on rapists and murderers in particular. But so you don't hold the same opinion of Johnny that it's the fault of the girls and the parents for the girls being raped?
No,
Because that's what he
Johnny's
was
made
saying
his
the other
position
night.
very clear.
Whoa,
And
whoa, whoa,
Johnny's
whoa, whoa.
said
Goddard.
this many times that he actually agrees with my point, which is that they should be hanged. So, but I'm curious as to, are you taking the Sharia view that, you know, child sexual abuse, kids should be, you know, anyone who does this should be hanged? Because that sounds like Sharia pandering, no?
So what? What? Just because I agree with one aspect of how Sharia law deals with criminals? Yeah. At the end of the day, I understand Sharia. I understand Sharia law. I'm not like these mongy Tommy Tards and everybody else that goes, "Oh, that's a Muslim body." But I understand it. I've
Okay,
spent
good.
time with Muslims. I grew up with Muslims in Leicester, so I know exactly how they think and operate. So yeah, people that do harm children, in my opinion, they should be given the death penalty. But when you've got people like Johnny that is trying to switch the blame from the rapists onto the parents and onto the children, I find that to be absolutely abhorrent. Because if you look at many of these cases, the Pakistani Muslim men predominantly targeted vulnerable children. They went after the most vulnerable people in society. And if you read through some of the reports, what they did to white British children, I don't understand. This is what pisses me off about the white British community, yeah? Because say if that had been in Saudi Arabia or if it had been in another country, and white British men and have gone out with their cousins and their brothers and their fathers and they'd have raped Pakistani children together, I would have expected the Pakistanis to kick them out of the country, to burn the houses down, you know, to give them capital punishment. But what do we do in the UK? People turn a blind eye to it. It's forgotten about. It's
So,
just the
James,
rape
let me come
gangs
in there.
turned up.
Let me come in there, right? So I need to clarify my position because you made it sound like I'm blaming the mothers and the parents and the children. And first of all, I've never blamed any children. You're making out that I blame the parents and I let the rapists off scot-free. That is a gross, disgusting misrepresentation of what I said. What I said was parents have to take a level of responsibility to allow their children to become a place to allow their children to become so vulnerable as to allow predators to get anywhere near them. As a parent myself, I've got two children. Between the ages, and I've got a daughter. My daughter's 6 weeks old. Between the ages of now till she's 18, I will not maybe 16, 17, they start to venture out further on their own. Fair enough. So between the ages of now and 15-year-old, I will know where my daughter is at all times. At all times, I'll know where my daughter is. She'll either be with a mother or if she's with a friend, I'll know where she's going. And if she doesn't go to school, for example, and the school rings up and says, by the way, sir, your daughter didn't turn up to school today, I'll be out in the car immediately finding my daughter. What I'm saying to you is these children that have been left neglected by their parents, right? They have, I'm not saying in all cases, but in a lot of cases, they've been neglected by their parents to the point of they get into such a vulnerable position to allow predators to get in arm's distance of them. That's what I'm saying. So parents have got to take a level of responsibility. That shouldn't be a controversial thing for me to say.
No, but the point is they targeted children, many of them that were in the care system, many of them that were in care homes. So they've gone after specifically after the most weakest people in society. Again, this is something that could have been prevented. And it comes from two prongs, because not only have you got the Pakistani Muslim men that are doing it, but you've got the police that have covered it up, because in some cases the Pakistani men were actually providing
Yeah, I know,
children
but
for
no. So
police
you've moved
officers.
but now you moved the
Go on,
goalpost
sorry, go back, go back to the
now you've
last
moved.
bit.
1 second, James. You've moved the goalpost to now the care systems. You accused me of blaming the parents, right? Which is incorrect. So can we just get this clarified that I did not blame the parents?
Hold on. So what are you actually saying then? That the parents
So,
needed to
for
be
example,
more.
children that are going out on their own, that are supposed to be in the care of their parents, right? That live in the homes with their parents, and have been left alone to fend for themselves and go out and stay out and drink and God knows what, and left them in such a vulnerable position that allows predators to prey on them. Then parents need to be held responsible. That's not me saying that's a separate conversation to the care homes and the systems that are put in place that are supposed to look after children that have become orphans or they've been taken off the parents. They're two separate points. What I'm saying to you is the parents, the children that still live with their parents, right, that go truanting, that skive off school, that play out late with their friends, them children, right, that are still living with their parents and they've been groomed by sexual predators, them parents need to take a level of responsibility and be held accountable. That's not the same as saying that the children that have got no parents, that are in care systems, where the state's supposed to look after them, they're two separate points.
Yeah. Okay. So victims that had both a mum and dad, perhaps, yeah, in some cases the parents could have done more, but I don't think you can blanket apply it to all cases, because I think that all
I never
cases
did that.
are
I didn't do that.
right. Okay. Sweet.
Thank you for that acknowledgement.
Right. What's the next one?
Okay, so what you mentioned, you keep mentioning algebra, yeah? Now, algebra was one of the 8 things that I mentioned. That was the first thing. There was like a bunch of things. I mentioned that the founder, or the one that's formulated the theory of gravity, which I would have said is very important. Regardless of the phone, regardless of the laptop, you need to know how physics works. You need to know about astronomy. You need to know about all of these things that are being utilized today, not some random guy that's made a Motorola phone. It's more important that we actually look on the holistic view that for 10 centuries, the Muslims did contribute and have contributed. And even now, if your thing is just the physical aspect of things, and your thing is, oh, okay, what I see, well, London skyline is being funded by Islamic finance. What did I say? Yeah, you heard. Islamic finance, which is called Sukuk Islamic bonds. And because of that, we've got stuff like the Shard, Chelsea Barracks, Harrods. The Qataris even invest in Heathrow Airport. And you also have Arabs that bailed out banks like Barclays, whether you agree with it or not. So you do have people. So this distinction does need to be made clear. Indeed, of course, there are Muslims that aren't good, just like there are Jews that aren't good, and just like there are, get this, Christians that aren't good. And I think you'll agree with what I'm about to say next, because you are also a Christian. And I'm sure, I don't know why you haven't posted about this, but there is a pandemic, which means global, not restricted to, and again, it's bad if it happens in a town, it's bad if it happens in a city, it's bad if it happens in a country. But I'm saying this is happening in countries, plural. And what is this? Child abuses in churches. And the headlines, these are the headlines on all of these mainstream newspapers that you can think of. And I quote, thousands of children have been abused in churches in France. Another headline, thousands of children have been abused in churches in Portugal. Another headline, thousands of children being abused in Spain. Another headline, thousands of children being abused in the USA. My point is, and I hope that you'll agree with this, just because thousands are being done, and just because they're being done by white people, and just because they're being done in churches, doesn't mean all white people should be blamed. Their race needs to be put on every single headline. The fact that they're Christian, the fact that they're priests, bishops, pastors, that is not important to the point. The point is these people, as well as the Rotherham and the other ones, Rochdale ones, all of them, regardless of color and creed, they should all be held to justice. But the problem is, and this is what these reports that you've mentioned, well, you didn't really mention their names, but the X report and the J report, one of the things that they conclude is it is dangerous to label certain victims as this is their skin color or the perpetrators of a certain skin color. Because you know what happens then? It takes away from victims that people like Ella Cobain have said, that I have been in places and spoken to victims that are brown. And James, you yourself put up a tweet and a headline and a newspaper clipping of brown people that were abusing a child in a mosque. So this is irrelevant regardless of race, color, creed. All of them should be outed and all of them should be hung. We're not talking about thousands in mosques in multiple countries. We're talking about white Christians. But I don't see you posting about this. I don't see you ranting and raving about this. All I'm saying is there should be a level of consistency if you do truly care about the kids.
Right, okay, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to explain something. You're going to start crying after this, but it is what it is. There's a difference. There's a difference between Muslims and there's a difference between Christians. So I'm going to ask you this question now, and I want you to answer honestly. Your prophet, old Muhammad, is his example perfect for all of time?
Oh, here we go again. Yes, of course.
No. So
Heard this
Muhammad's
dead
example
argument.
is
Go on.
perfect for all of time. Okay, well, it's not a dead
It is.
argument because you've just agreed with paedophilia, and that's the difference between Muslims and Christians. You idolize a paedophile prophet that married a child and raped a child. So Muslims are obviously not the same as Christians because they don't look at sexual abuse of children in the same way. And you can't, because your prophet is a paedophile. So how can we expect people that worship a paedophile not to be paedophiles?
Oh, you really went there.
Explain
you really
it
went
to
there,
me.
James, didn't you? You've just
I'm not going there. It's
all
No,
right,
no,
all
no.
facts.
right.
At the
Well,
end of
look,
the day,
I
when a
can't, I
One
can't wait
second.
to
51-year-old man,
watch.
I look
I
at you
can't
all
wait to listen to.
interrupting brown
I can't
tears,
wait to
bro.
listen to this evisceration now from Zeeshan. Let me just get my popcorn. Carry on, Zeeshan.
Okay. So you're saying that the prophet, peace be upon him, he did this. But Jesus is he a prophet to you or is he God to you?
And
I am answering the question. I'm asking you a counter question as I'm answering the question.
we're not talking about Jesus. Jesus never raped anyone like Muhammad. Yeah, that's the difference. You idolize a rapist pedophile. That's the difference between me and you. You believe that you can have sex
Okay,
with a girl
relax. Let
that
me
started
answer.
her period because no, let me say this because it's true, and this is what people need to realize about your kind. You lot believe it's acceptable to have sexual intercourse with children that have just started puberty because there's no
1 sec, guys. Is James? 1 second, James.
consent
Guys, is James rubber banding?
in Islam, is there?
Zeeshan, is
And
James
stop
rubber
her
banding for
puberty. So you
you?
can't take my program with me.
It looks like he's breaking up.
James, can you hear me? Can you hear me, James?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were rubber banding then.
Let
You were breaking up pretty bad.
me come in on my computer. 1 sec. I'll come off the phone now.
Okay. This is I can't believe he went there, man, but he went there, so yeah, we're gonna have to go there, Zeeshan, and
No
unpack this
problem. I'm
properly.
ready.
I genuinely I can't wait for this because I know that this is gonna be beautiful. This is gonna be beautiful. This is gonna be poetic, and I can't wait for this to get him absolutely destroyed here. He went there. He went there. He went through he opened the door. No problem. We shall walk through it. We shall walk through it.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, he'll come back in a second.
Hopefully, he won't blame the.
Is here now. Is here now. Right, Zeeshan, I'm going to leave this completely to you.
So
Loud and
James,
clear, loud and clear. Guys, just give us a 100s or thumbs up if you can all hear James, please, in audience. Just give us a 100s or thumbs up if you can hear him.
say something, James.
Guys, someone say anything. 100s, thumbs up, anything in the audience. Can you hear James? James, speak, please.
Hello.
Can you hear him, yeah?
Is he gone off again?
No,
they can hear. They can hear. You're a bit quiet, James, but if you could speak up a little bit, please.
Is that better?
Still not very good.
Hold on, let me come off.
Oh, he's jumped out again. This just shows. In fact, you know what? I'm not even going to say out. I'm not going to say out. I'm not going to steal your thunder, Zeeshan. This is definitely your ballpark, not mine. All right, he's back again. Speak, James.
Right, is that better?
Oh, it's 1,000 times better. 1,000 times. Just
Yeah.
one more confirmation, guys. Can you hear James? Just give us 100s if you can hear him. Or thumbs up. Anyone in the audience?
Yeah, I think they can hear me.
Can't see him.
All right, James. So what's the marker, or what's the age that a person should be when they get married or they consummate marriage? What's the age?
What do you mean by a scientific thing, or are we going by the definition of
No,
in each
because
country?
whatever, just your view, the view that you've expounded by defining somebody as a pedophile. I want to know your view. Let's not go into science
Well,
now.
no,
A bit late for that.
the question was me saying to you about the Islamic age of consent. There's no age of consent in Islam, is there? It's just when the girl starts menstruating, she's deemed acceptable. Muhammad Hijab has been on a stream or program discussing how it's perfectly acceptable to have sex with a 13-year-old child. So yeah, I do think it's a bit.
And
of
I'm
an
asking you, what's the proper age?
I'd say 18 personally. I don't think you should be able to get married or have sex
Okay.
until you're 18.
Why
That's
18?
my opinion.
Why
Because
18?
you're an adult then.
Are you an adult at 18? Are you telling me bang on 18, everyone's an adult?
The majority are, yes.
The majority. Have you checked everybody? How do you know?
Stop being facetious. The majority of
Oh, now
people
I'm
by
being
the age, by
facetious
the
when I'm
age, yeah,
questioning
but you
you
are
about
the
your
majority.
paradigm.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, the majority of people by the age of 18 are what I would deem to be an adult. Yes, you can drive a
According to
car,
what?
you can get married. Well, judging by Western standards, I would say 18. I don't believe that you should get married at 16 or you should have sex at 16. I
Which
think it should be
Western
18.
standards? Because Estonia says 15, UK says 18. So which Western
UK says
country?
16, actually.
Sorry?
Not 8. UK's 16, not 18.
Estonia's 15.
I'm
Who's
not in
right?
Estonia. I'm in the United Kingdom. I don't
Who's
care
right?
what Estonia
You
is.
said European paradigm, yeah? European countries. I'm asking you, whose age do we
Stop
go
trying
with?
to split hairs. I would personally
I'm
say
sorry,
that.
this is very important to split hairs. If you're saying 18 is when you're mature, that's not splitting hairs. That's because what you're saying is if you do it at 17, you're a pedo. If you do it at 19, you're okay. Not splitting hair, James. We need to be specific.
Paedophilic behavior. So that they're the vice.
So, James, can you give me any studies that 18 is the right one?
I'm saying it should be 18 because you.
I don't care what you're saying. Give me evidence.
Well, you should
Evidence.
care what I'm saying because you've asked me a question. I'm giving you the answer.
And I'm asking you for proof, not just opinions. Do you have any evidences? Any proof? Any studies?
Tell me how great it is to marry a 12-year-old child. Then come on, you're itching to defend the pedophile argument. Defend it. Come on, tell me how
didn't
great.
like that
Tell me
question,
how
did you,
great
James?
it is. Tell me how
Didn't
great
like that
it is
question,
that
did you?
Mohammed married a 9-year-old.
Didn't like that, James, did you? 18 and then telling me, oh, I think it should be 18. Why? Because Europe. I tell you, not all of Europe. Oh, yeah, but I'm not living over there. You're all over the place, mate. You're all over the
I don't
place.
care what goes on.
Give me a study that says 18 is when you are mature.
Stop defending paedophiles. How about that? It's really
How
quite
was
simple.
that a response to what I'm asking you for?
Common sense. It would be a common sense approach that 18 would be the legal age for something because you're legally an adult then. I don't
Well,
care
China
what
says
Estonia
22.
does.
India
I
says
Chinese?
21.
I don't care
Estonia says
about India
15.
or China.
Are they
I'm not
not
bothered
using
about
common
third
sense?
world
One second. Let me make a point here. Make a quick point. So the institutions that you can't stand, James, and I can't stand, the governments that are corrupt with paedophilia and riddled with sexual offenders, just the wrong ones, right? These institutions that we all hate, that don't align with our views, you're now relying on these institutions to say to you when the child is an adult. Do you see how that does not make sense?
No. When did I? At the end of the day, when you are 18, can you? Right. Let's use a bit of
No,
common
let
sense
me say
here.
it. No, don't say
Let's use a bit
James,
of
1
brain
second. Let me say
power.
no,
I know
James,
brain
wait.
powers.
James, wait, let me say I want to say no, let me say this again
between you
carefully.
two.
Let me say this again carefully. 1 second, right? Most people in this space will agree, we all hate the government. The government don't serve us. They don't serve us. They don't do anything beneficial for us. They steal our money, and it's literally riddled with paedophilia. You only have to go to court as a paedophile in the UK system to get a slap on the wrist. We all know they're not serious about punishing paedophiles, as we've already alluded to earlier on in the space, right? So these Western institutions, i.e. UK law, they've said the people that you don't trust, the people that you don't like, the people that you want out of government, they've said to you and to me and to Zeeshan, no, when you're 18, you can have, or when you're 16, you can have sex. So the people that you want out of government, the people that you don't trust, you're now trusting to tell you when a child is of age to have sex.
Well, I'm
Make
not
sense.
though. I'm not though because you're a retard. When have I said that? The government is 16. I'm proposing 18. So how am I proposing what the government are saying? Fucking hell! Like honestly,
All right.
the level of intellect between you two is next
Okay, no
level.
problem. Let's see who the
Mastermind.
retard actually is, yeah? So you're
Yeah, the
talking
one
about
that follows a paedophile, mate. That to me is a retard. Yeah.
Okay, so somebody who follows a pedophile is a retard. Okay, put yourself on mute. Give me a few minutes, and then I'll let you come back. So let's see. I've got the Bible over here. The author of the Old Testament allegedly is supposed to be God. Yeah, Jesus. If you go to Numbers 31:18, let's see what God, Jesus, told the people to do. But keep alive for yourselves all the young girls who have not known a man intimately. Oh, what is this? It seems like Jesus, according to your definition, not mine, is a pedophile. Mary, according to the Catholic Encyclopedia, she was 12 when she was married. Apparently, Joseph was a pedophile. Apparently, God, who was put inside Mary to be born to come to die for everybody's sin? Apparently, he selected Mary, and apparently that relationship itself was a pedophile relationship. Let's look at King Richard II.
Hold on 1
Who?
second.
No,
Why
no,
are
I
you
haven't
using...
finished.
No,
King,
hold on. Let
I
me
haven't
interrupt.
finished.
Why
I
are
haven't
you
finished.
using the Bible
King
when you
Richard
say it's
II.
corrupt?
I haven't finished.
You
You can
say
wait.
my Bible's
King
corrupt,
Richard
so why are you
II.
using a corrupt
I
scripture
need
to...
to finish what I'm saying. Then you can respond. I'll give you ample time to respond.
Yeah, make
King
sure you do
Richard,
this time.
King Richard II married Isabella of France in 1396, who was 6. Hugh Capet's son, Robert II, married Rala of Italy. She was 8. Saint Agnes of Rome was betrothed before 12 years old. Yes, indeed, we do say that a person that reaches the age of puberty, they have met one of the conditions of getting married. However, if you speak to any Muslim, they are not going to say you can marry, a child. It has to be the individual needs to be mentally ready, they have to be physically ready, and thirdly, it has to be socially acceptable. These are the 3 conditions. And that's why, if you look at underage marriages, they are actually not being done by Muslims. Look at the statistics in America, it's majority Christians. Look at India, it's majority Hindus, about 85%. So, this notion that, oh, he's a pedophile, you're throwing all the Christians down the river. And why don't you mention also the fact what it says in the old, amongst the Jews as well? They believe that you can marry a 3-year-old. According to the Talmud Sanhedrin 55b, a Jew can marry a 3-year-old. Yes, puberty is a very important indicator, like you demonstrated, merely 18-year-old, because according to me, it's 18. According to me, it's 18. What are you going on about, mate?
Bro,
According
you're
to
the
me.
one that's making an argument for
You want to
paedophilia at
interrupt
the
now,
end of
yeah?
the day.
I'll
Like,
let you speak now. Go ahead.
No, yeah, because you're actually sitting there trying to make the argument for paedophilia. Firstly, Jesus didn't author the Old Testament, number 1. Number 2, excuse me, listen, have some respect when a white man's speaking to you and let me finish. Number 2, yeah? Number 2,
Are
I'm
you
not a
white? I thought you were a
Zionist.
Germanic immigrant from Europe that came
I'm
in
still more
and
indigenous
took
than
the
you'll ever
country
be,
away from
Abdul.
the
Now let
Welsh
me
and the
finish.
Scots.
Abdul.
You're an Anglo-Saxon immigrant, and now you're sitting in Thailand.
That is native to the
What are
United
you talking
Kingdom.
about,
You
white
are a
man?
brown invader that supports
You want me to
paedophilia.
respect you as a white man? Then show me your credentials in academia.
Well,
Maybe I
why
may
can you
respect
actually
you,
let me
but not
finish?
just
Can you
because of
actually
your
let me
skin color,
articulate
boy.
what I'm
I
saying?
won't respect you just because of your
Let
skin
me
color.
finish what I am saying. I have afforded you the luxury of being able to say what you're saying. You're interrupting me because you don't like what I'm saying. You don't like the truth. You and Johnny have both sat here and you have both tried to make an argument for paedophilia. At the end of the day, you want to talk about Mary.
No one's done that,
No,
James.
hold on.
Nobody's done that.
Let me
Nobody's
finish.
done that. So don't lie.
Let
Don't
me
sit.
finish.
But
Let me finish.
1 second. There's 300 people in here. We're all. Everyone can hear what you're saying. We have not done that. That's in your
Right.
own.
So
That's
hold
some
on. Let me
serious
finish.
mental gymnastics. We haven't done that. You're just
Can I
not
finish?
listening. You're listening to respond, not listening to understand. There's a difference.
Can I finish? Can I finish? Right, thank you. We've got our emotions in checks now, ladies, yeah? Okay. So Joseph, you talk about Joseph and Mary. Did Joseph have sex with Mary? No, he didn't. Was Mary, how old do you say she is, 12 or 13? They didn't have sex. Number 2. Thirdly, we don't worship King John, do we? You keep mentioning King John, King James, right? And you're talking about the Talmud and how it's acceptable for Jews to rape 3-year-old children. I don't think you've been following my post correctly, because I am anti-Zionist as well as anti-Islamic as well. I don't want either of you in the country. I don't want the Semitic squabbles. I'm sick of seeing
Anti-Zionist or anti-Jew?
Let me finish. Have the decency for once in your life to let me finish saying something.
Right, James, yeah? Stop this like moral high ground like you haven't interrupted us throughout this entire space. Just stop it. Everyone can hear what's going on. So just stop it. We've all, at equal measures, interrupted each other. We're all guilty. We're all hypocrites. So stop this. Stop it. Yeah? Grow up, stop being petulant, and just take it as it is. Yeah? We've all been interrupted. Get over it. You're not, there's no supremacy in here or occupation here, right? We're all equal. And we've all done it. So let's just get past this petulant stuff and carry on.
Right. between both of you, I know your little tactics that you're using because you're both trying to silence me. You're going to let me finish what I'm saying, right? Because at the end of the day, there's a fundamental disagreement, and this is what the problem is. Zeeshan has tried to make excuses for the last however 20 minutes for paedophilia, right? Because his prophet, his hero, is a paedophile, so he's got to make excuses for the paedophile. I'm not going to make excuses for paedophilia, and I never would make excuses for it. At the end of the day, I've said what I've said about the legal age of consent. I believe it should be 18. I pretty much think that's a pretty reasonable stand to take. I'm not saying like the Muslims, oh no, as soon as she starts bleeding, let's get her married off and let's get her having kids. I'm not saying that at all. And neither
Neither are Muslims aren't saying that neither, though. Did you not hear a word he said? No, they're not. He just said to you, what he just said to you, there's three criteria. There's physical age, there's mental age, and if it's socially acceptable. Why are you negating the other two, James? Was it convenient for your argument?
Well, no, but there's evidence of child marriage.
You're getting cooked, and you know you are.
No, there's evidence of child marriage all the way through the Middle East. For fuck's sake, Iraq have just legalized marrying a 9-year-old girl. So actually, yeah, go on, defend that for me, lads. Tell me how great it is that Iraq have just legalized child abuse, or are you going to tell me that it's great because it's under the Sharia?
Prove that she was a child and that she wasn't mature, because that's the definition of pedophilia.
This is what I mean. When you're presented with the facts, no, prove it. Do
facts.
This. All you
what
ever do
facts?
is deflect. No, but you deflect.
Facts? You gave zero facts, mate.
Right, so have Iraq just legalized marrying children?
Don't tell me about Iraq. You're talking about the Prophet. Stick on the point. Stick on the point. Prove that the Prophet married a child. Prove that she was a child.
Okay, so hold on. So the Sunnis believe that the argument between the Sunnis and the Shiites is the age of Aisha. So what's it? The Sunnis believe that she was 6, and yet some sources believe that she was 9 or 18. At the end of the day, your prophet married a 6-year-old child when he was 54. He consummated that marriage when she was 9. So yeah, anybody that believes that that human being is the perfect example for all of time needs to get the hell out of the United Kingdom.
It's funny that, James, it's funny that you're relying on one hadith to back up your argument, and you're negating other hadiths that go against that. Very interesting. Very interesting.
So let me just respond to that, because his response was quite laughable. He said, oh yeah, Mary was 12, but it wasn't consummated. What are you going on about, mate?
It was an immaculate birth.
Yeah, let me respond.
Yeah, so was there any child abuse in it, like Muhammad when he's raped?
Let the brown man respond, James.
It's not nice when you get interrupted, is it? It's annoying.
You hear what the brown man's saying? You don't like it, James? Oh,
I just find your voice to be quite irritating, if I'm being
no problem,
honest.
James. But at least listen to my arguments, because at the end of the day, that's what's of benefit. Not really my.
But you're
voice.
wrong, though.
Yeah?
You're wasting. I'm wasting my time. I've stayed up until 3 o'clock to hear the argument.
I don't want to hear you whinging. Stop moaning. Listen to the facts. God picked the age of 12. Stop moaning, mate. Listen to what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm schooling you here. Yeah, Mary. God picked the age of 12. He picked the age of 12 to come out of Mary. And what does
We've been schooling you all night.
What does 1 Peter 2:21 says? It says, follow his footsteps. Oh, so you also believe that as well. Yeah, you need to follow the footsteps of Jesus. Oh, who is indeed the author of the Old Testament, because you believe in the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. They are 3, but they are 1. Come on, James, you should know this. I shouldn't be telling you about your own religion. Secondly, what you're saying about Sunnis and Shias, what are you going on about, mate? Just pick up one book. Maybe not multiple books, just one book. There's differences among Sunnis about this. There's differences among Shias about this. But we're not interested in those differences. We stick with the 9 thing, because we believe, and we have evidences to prove this from ample literature, that she was indeed mature. In fact, let me give you something peer-reviewed. I don't know if you're familiar with that process, because in academia, peer-reviewed is as high as it gets. Marcia Herman Giddens of 1980, she noticed a disparity between the age of maturity in her medical textbooks, which was said as 11. And her research told her, that it was indeed 9. And what did Nature Journal say? There is no optimal age to start maturing. No optimal age. So when you're saying, oh, it should be 18. Oh, He's a pedophile. Well, the definition of pedophile, mate, I don't mean to school you on your own language. It's a person who's sexually attracted to children. So you need to prove now, the burden of proof is on you now. You need to prove that Aisha was indeed a child. Now I'm going to listen to you and see what facts you bring.
You finished?
Yes.
You finished? You got it all out of your chest?
No, there's more, but I just gave you enough that you could deal with, because then I know it's very difficult for you to deal with a lot of information. So I only gave you a little bit so you can handle this, and hopefully you'll stick on point. Prove that Aisha was a child. I've spelled it out again. Go ahead.
So you want me to get a time machine and go back 1400 years and prove that Aisha was a child? At the end of the day, Aisha was 6 years
academia,
old.
James.
Hold on.
You have to
Aisha
use
was...
some knowledge.
Look,
some
I go to
academia,
speak.
some
This is what
stuff in
annoys me
general.
about people like you. Can you actually just let me speak?
You're the one that asked me a question, mate. I'll let you speak. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is what's frustrating about people like you. You claim that you've got the moral high ground, but at the end of the day, you've spent the last half an hour defending a racist, murdering paedophile that married a 6-year-old child.
He hasn't done that.
Hold on.
In your head, James, yeah. But to the rest of us normal, rational people, he hasn't done that.
Right.
But he hasn't done that, though. So stop lying.
Right.
You're lying.
Hold on. I'm going to say this now. I'm going to say this bit first because this is starting to get on my tits now. Right. Johnny, this is at you. Number one, the only reason that you're a simp for Muslim and you suck all the cock is because you're from Bradford. You are scared of the Muslim population of Bradford. That's why you've become the biggest simp in the world for Islam. For me, people like you make me feel absolutely sick. You want to sit on a panel with somebody and defend the fact that a 54-year-old man had sex with a child. You want to sit on a panel with a man and defend the fact that Pakistani men have raped.
Prove that she was a child. Prove it.
He can't prove it, Zeeshan. He can't prove it.
Finish.
He can waffle, but he can't prove it.
Listen, this ain't waffle. At the end of the day,
it's all anecdote.
You've been
evidence.
Waffling all night, mate. You've not stopped waffling.
Hold on.
James thinks he needs a time machine to prove it.
Can you actually hold on? So Muslims want. Right. Every time I try and articulate a point, you both jump over me. At the end of the day, I could handle you both at the same time.
James, you've done the same to us.
It's 2-on-1. It's 2-on-1. I'm having to jump in because you keep over jumping me. And at the end of the day,
you're jumping in because you're rude. That's what it is.
At the end of the day, let me finish what I am saying.
Stop being a victim. Stop playing the victim.
There's no victim here. At the end of the day, I actually feel quite ashamed of myself that I've sat on a panel with a white man that wants to be a Muslim and a brown man that thinks it's acceptable to marry children.
When have I claimed I want to be Muslim? When have I claimed I want to be Muslim? Just because I'm not arrogant and ignorant like you does not make me want to be Muslim.
You choose to ignore the rape of white British children because you're too busy trying to be.
When have I ignored it? When have I ignored it? Now, ironically, you choose to ignore that most group sexual exploitation happens in white men that look like me and you.
Yeah, but
you're the fucking hypocrite, not me. You're the hypocrite.
You're negating.
Because I see the difference between me and you, James. I highlight all of them, irrespective of creed, colour, or religion. You only highlight the Muslim man, or the immigrant, or the ethnic minority. You're the fucking hypocrite, not me. I've got moral consistency.
There's nothing moral about you, lad. You ain't got morals.
I've got no morals.
No.
You're the only one. Do you know? Didn't we start this space? When we started this space, Zeeshan highlighted that you only highlight the religion when it's Muslims, when it's Sikhs or Hindus or it's Christians. You don't highlight the religion.
Hold on. Let me reiterate something, right? I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, and I probably should have said this a bit sooner. It doesn't matter if they're Muslim, African, or Indian. At the end of the day, the crime shouldn't have been committed because they shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. I'm not going to sit and pretend,
because you said so. Because you said so.
Every time you let me say one sentence and then you jump in because you're emotionally incontinent. Now
you're jumping into me. You know everybody can hear this space, right? You're jumping into me too. You're doing as bad as me. We're both doing it to each other, right? Everybody can hear this. You know that we're not in a dark room, just me and you. Everyone can hear the conversation, and we're both doing it to each other.
The difference is it's 2 versus 1 here, and I'm more than happy to keep it like this because to be honest, it's hardly like it's a great challenge. But the point is, right, for the past however many minutes, you hit what's his name, Zeeshan has been defending Mohammed the paedophile, and you've been making
he's not
allowances.
A paedophile though, and you can't prove he's a child.
Hold on. Now Muslims, see, this is the difference between Muslims and others, right? Muslims are taught to emulate the example of Muhammad. Zeeshan believes that Muhammad's example is perfect for all of time, which means he accepts paedophilia, because if Muhammad's
No, that's
yes,
incorrect.
because the question is Muhammad's example perfect for all of time? And everything that Muhammad did back
Okay,
then
so
is
James,
irrelevant now.
let me counter. One quick point, right? So when somebody makes an accusation, which you made an accusation against their prophet, peace be upon him, you made the accusation that he's a paedophile. So the burden of proof is on you to prove that Aisha was a child and he was indeed a paedophile. Yet you brought no evidence to substantiate that
Johnny, he
claim.
thinks he needs a time machine to give proof. I mean, that's the IQ that we're dealing with here. That's
You're
the level
talking
that we're
about
dealing with.
IQ as somebody. Where are you from? What's your home country?
I'm from here, South London.
You're not British. If a mouse was born in a stable, it wouldn't be called a horse.
If the mouse was born, you can't even get that out right properly.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've woken up.
Waffling. Another whinging and another moan. Yeah, you know what? If you really want us to go back to our countries, you know what? We were happy. We were happy in India with our turbans and our curries and our hot weather. But you guys popped along.
That's another invention that you didn't
now
invent.
look who's interrupting. You brought us here as Laskars, ship workers, via the colonizing tool of the East India Company. And then you continued to bring us here to fight in World War I and World War II and your Napoleonic wars, when 1 out of 6 was from Hindustan, which is India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. You had us fighting your wars. Then when you were plundering us, colonizing us, you wanted us to then transport the material via the ships as well. Moreover, then when the world wars were finished, you then brought us here to rebuild your country as, and I quote, colonial subjects under the British Nationality Act 1948. So don't sit there and say, oh, why are you guys here? It's because you're over there. That's why we're here. You're over there. Let me finish. You're over there. That's why we're over here. And you know what? You want migrants to leave? We want migrants to leave as well. Yeah, we also do. And we have a bigger problem because you guys bring your armies, you bring your banks, you bring your corporations, and you interfere in our politics. You plunge our countries into turmoil while benefiting our natural resources. Do you know what? With irony, this conversation is so ironic. Somebody who wants to divorce the history from this as if things just happen in a vacuum, James. Is this how low IQ you and your audience are, that you believe they're going to wrap this up?
You finished?
I want to make a point. So, James, on a few of your posts I've seen before that you ever got Africans, right, and send Africans back to Africa, right? Do you understand, right? Do you have first, I'll ask you a question. Do you know exactly what's going on in Africa, in particular the Congo?
About the slaughter of Congolese Christians by Islamic fanatics.
No, that's actually not. That's not the. So you don't know. So you don't. Just say you don't know. It's okay. No problem.
Well, no, I'm talking about there was recently 70 Christians in Congo that were murdered by Islamists, weren't they?
No. If you know anything about the Congo,
no, you don't want to mention that because it makes
hold on,
Johnny.
One second. If you know anything about the Congo, about Rwanda, and about Uganda, you would understand it's Israel, it's America, it's the UK that are arming the militias, that are keeping children as young as 10 years old in their minds, that are mining the cobalt that's in our phones right now. You know, so when you fucking chastise and get disrespectful about Africans, right? You should have some knowledge about what you're speaking about.
I have.
Sorry, Johnny. I wanted to mention one other thing, James. With regards to this news story, I heard this yesterday as well. Somebody was quoting it. However, if you look at that same article that you've probably shared or other people have shared, right underneath it, it says that in 2 decades, 6 million Congolese people have been murdered. It's actually, they claim that it's a group, it's a rebel group rather. I obviously don't know the politics as the Congolese do, but there is a rebel group called the M23, and they have taken power. And Congo is 95% Christian. It's a Christian country. People are running for shelter anywhere and everywhere that they can find. The reality is that that church was one of the places that the people went. It wasn't because they were Christian. It was because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. People are being killed in mosques. Well, there are very little mosques over there, but churches outside on the streets, in the shops, wasn't because they're Christian. It was because they were part of the wrong group. And again, if you know anything about African colonization, you will know about something called the Berlin Conference. Africans were very passive individuals that weren't really fighting. That's why they were bought into slavery. I know you've got a clip in which you're saying, oh, no, slavery was good for them because they were sacrificing babies and this and that, which I'll give you a chance. I want to genuinely know if that was tongue in cheek or if you actually believe that you civilized the Africans. But the Berlin Conference actually split that continent to such a degree that not only was it split, but their natural resources, gold, diamonds, rubber, they were taken out. The countries were divided, and then their borders were put in place, borders that have caused fighting to ensue in that continent even till today. And not only that, when the Europeans left, they left their own vassal rulers like Mobutu and the likes that continued plundering that continent. And even now, and I rate you for this, you're unhappy with what's going on in Iraq, what has happened in Iraq and Afghanistan because of oil, because of lithium, because of opium, and all of these sorts of things. But coming back to this point, what did you mean by that video in which you were talking about slavery and, what I mentioned?
Right, there's two things. Because firstly, I know this is going back to Aisha's age, but whilst you've been waffling on, I've been sat here looking
James,
through.
just a question to you, James. Sorry, before I'm not interrupting you to be rude. I've had a request of someone because we're speaking about the Congo, if they could be allowed to join the conversation. But if you're not,
Yeah,
if you're not
but
okay
hold
with
on, let me just clarify something.
no, but I just want to say first, like, if
Uh,
you're not okay with
right,
it,
no,
then I'll
hold on,
keep it as it is.
hold
But
on.
if you are okay with it, then I'll bring
Right,
them up.
can
It's chill.
we, right, the impression that I was under, we were just going to keep it to me, you and Zeeshan. It's currently 11 minutes past 3 in the morning here. So I only want to do a maximum of another half an hour. No offense, I don't really care about Africa. I don't really care what's going on there, other than what's going on in South Africa. They're not my people. They don't concern me. Number
Well,
two,
that's such an ignorant
no,
take.
it's not an
Carry
ignorant
on.
thing. It's called
It
Africans
is.
don't care about my people. I'm ethnocentric. I don't care about Africans. Number two, when you said to me about providing proof about Aisha's age, would you agree that Sahih Bukhari is one of the most legitimate sources of hadiths, Zeeshan?
Yes, Sahih Bukhari, yeah, the Arabic
So,
one, yeah.
yeah, so Sahih Bukhari states that Aisha was 6 because according to Sunan and Nasai, the messenger of Allah married me when I was 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9. Now, isn't that one of the most reputable sources of hadith? So, wouldn't that be proof that your prophet's a paedophile?
Okay, shall I respond?
I'm more than willing to listen to you.
Okay, yep, that's fine. So initially, when I asked you for proof, you interpreted that as a time machine. Now, when I was schooling you about another topic, you then shifted from that time machine model and you actually decided to go on Google and find the hadith that we've been discussing since the start of this discussion. That's not evidence. You've just reinforced my point. In fact, what you've done is you've actually thrown yourself in the deep end as well, because you've acknowledged that she's 9. You haven't proved that she hadn't undergone puberty, because we're talking about consummation.
I knew it. I knew what you were going to do.
Can I finish? No?
You dirty nonce.
You don't.
Oh,
you actually don't understand. You haven't even understood the point that I'm saying.
Go
The
on.
Prophet, yes, it was agreed at 6. However, he waited till 9. So what was he waiting for, James? You laughing and you're
You're
there.
just saying, yeah, he
with your
waited 3 years.
with your buddies over there, James. Why did he wait? What was he waiting for, Jamie?
Oh, mate.
What was he waiting for?
I hope you haven't got children. I really do hope
What
you
was he
don't
waiting for,
reproduce.
James? From the age of 6 to 9, what was he waiting for?
It was waiting for her to start bleeding. So you're saying
He
that
was, yeah. So he was
if a
waiting for
9-year-old
her
starts
to
bleeding, she's
reach
fair game. You
puberty.
sick,
But have you
disgusting
proven, James? Have you
individual.
proven that she had not reached the age of puberty at 9? Because that was what I had repeated several times, James. Because we knew about the 9 and consummation. So, did you find anything else whilst Googling the old news?
Well, you've just confirmed that your prophet had sex
I'll
with a
take that as a
9-year-old
no.
child. That 9-year-old child wasn't in the right frame of mind to make that decision, was she? So
Yes.
so
And
that's
I
that
said,
bit
give me
covered.
proof for this.
Right. So I've just given you the proof that you worship a paedophile, right? So we'll
You've
finish
just
that.
given me the proof that she was
Secondly,
9.
yeah,
We already
he's
established
fucking
this.
9 years old, you freak. 9 years old. And you're saying that's acceptable.
Again, you're not proving that she hadn't reached the age of maturity. 1400 years ago, might I add, in which the Christian kingdoms had no issue marrying young, as I gave you numerous examples. In fact, why is it nobody during that time raised it as an issue, James? Because it
am I
wasn't
telling
an
people?
issue. No, wait a
hold on.
second. The life expectancy in those days was pretty much half what it is today. The climate was higher. No scientist in their right mind or sociologist has raised it as an issue. In fact, even your friend Jordan Peterson, he said,
He's not
I
my
don't really
friend.
have
He's
an
a filthy
issue.
Zionist.
He said,
don't
he
say
said,
he's my friend. He's a
he
Zionist.
said, I don't really have an issue with that. In fact, no academic in their right mind does, because in 1400 years ago, there was no concept of this post-industrial revolution of childhood. They didn't have a concept of childhood in those days. If you were mature, you had to get out of the house, because if you didn't, then you'd probably be dying very soon. So this is called a fallacy. You mentioned fallacy at the beginning, the fallacy of presentism, where you're using the current criteria and you're judging by something that happened 1400 years ago. The third criteria was, so I mentioned physical, mental, and the third thing was it has to be socially acceptable. Then I give you examples of US and India, in which, of course, if they use their scripture, they're allowed to marry very young. We actually, James, are not. And that's why you don't see us doing this sort of stuff. In fact, rape.
That's just why you're
What's the
raping white
punishment
British
for rape
children,
in
isn't it?
Islam? What's the punishment for rape in Islam?
What's the punishment? Well, the female has to have 3 witnesses to prove that she was raped, doesn't she?
That's not punishment, James.
I'm
Do you understand
asking you,
English?
no, because a woman's testimony is only worth, is it a quarter or half of a man?
And you're diverting.
No,
Let me
answer the
answer.
question.
It
Stop
is
being
stoning
disingenuous and
to
answer
death.
the question.
If you are caught doing adultery, you get stoned to death. That's
Yeah,
it.
I agree with that.
A male is not allowed to shake the hand of a female. That's what our religion teaches us, James. That's why when I tell you, I'm with you when it comes to child group sexual exploitation, but you want to ignore that, mate, and you just want to use your nationalistic talking points. No, because this is something you should appreciate, because this is something that we could stand side by side in. Yes, we can disagree. In fact, to be honest, I think we agree on quite a lot of things. It's just that certain tones have, gotten the best out of you, and that's why the directions. Yeah.
Smile2Jannah, we agree on a lot. What we disagree on
Yeah.
is Muhammad and the fact that he's a paedophile.
No, you got no evidence for that, mate. You keep saying paedophile. You can't prove that she was a child. You don't even understand that definition.
How old is a child? Are they 9 years old? Would you say that a child? Okay, let's flip it.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Nature said.
James, one sec, Zeeshan, one sec, James. Yeah, what you're doing, right? You're applying rules and regulations of 2025 to 1400 years ago.
No,
do you understand how ignorant that is?
I'm not. I'm doing it for today's
yes,
standards,
you are.
mate.
You're applying the standards of today to 1400 years ago. That makes no sense.
No, I'm doing it to right now. Because
you're using our standards of today in 2025 to call their prophet, peace be upon him, a paedophile.
Why do you say that?
Because I show respect. You see, in the world, when you give respect, you get respect. It's very simple. I like to coexist with people. I don't like to fight with people. So I say that.
Okay, can I just say
one second. I say that purely at the basis of showing respect. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to do.
But at the same time, I'm going to say something here because this is true. Do you know what, Johnny? You remind me a lot of myself. Your hatred for Jews.
I'm nothing like you.
Yes,
I'm nothing like you.
Your hatred for Jews is the same as my hatred for Islam.
I don't hate Jews.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. I mean, I'm not. Go through my
timeline. There's a plethora of tweets of me defending Jews. So don't sit there and lie. And my followers know that. I don't hate Jews. Is there a Jewish supremacist problem in society? I think so. But I don't hate Jews. There's plenty of good Jewish people that I defend. So don't misconstrue or completely mischaracterize what I've said.
Okay. Well, at the end of the day, I like the way I look at it. I'm not pro-Israel. I'm not pro-Islam. I'm not pro-immigration. I've always been outspoken on what I believe, and like I
But
said,
wait there, James. Wait, one second. We can't get past this point. You've still not proven that Aisha was a child. You haven't proven it.
I've
You
not
haven't
proven it.
it.
I've just given you the hadith that states she was 6 and 9 years old. If that
Yeah,
doesn't
9
prove,
years old. That doesn't prove she was a child.
oh my God, 9 years old doesn't prove she's a child. Are we really
Today
having?
it does, yeah, it does today, in our time, yes, absolutely. I
So
completely agree
Johnny,
with you.
so
But
You know
Johnny,
14
what?
what?
This is
years ago,
exactly why. Can I explain? This is exactly why I don't want Muslims or Islam in my country, because you are making allowances and you are defending
no, that's not what I'm
paedophilia.
doing. That's
Yes,
not
you
what I've
are,
done.
because the difference is when European royalty married children. Yeah, I'm not telling people I worship the King of France and his example's perfect for all the time. You lot are telling people to worship a guy that raped a child, and you want
Okay,
me to think
wait
that's
there. So,
acceptable.
would
I've
you agree,
given you the
James?
proof.
James, 1 second. Would you agree, right? Would you agree with this point? I'm 42, right? So, and I've got a lot of life experience. Would you agree in your lifetime you've seen plenty of 18-year-old girls that you would consider not mature enough to get married? Yes or no?
Mm,
Because I've seen loads that are nowhere near. I was one of them.
no, I mean the majority of 18-year-olds. You might get some case. No,
No,
no, hold on,
no.
hold on.
So
Why
you
is
can't
it?
sit there and say that you've.
Can't be
I
honest.
know for a fact. 1 second. I know for a fact I've come across teenagers that are mature beyond their years. And I've also come across teenagers that are nowhere near the level of maturity required. So I would argue, James, actually, under Islamic law, their filtration system is far more rigorous than ours that just say when you're 17 years and 364 days, you're a child. You can't have sex, or is it 15 years and 364 days, you're a child. But once you hit 16, all of a sudden, you're mature. All of a sudden, you're of age. Which one's more rigorous, Islamic law or our law, James?
I don't adhere. I wouldn't say Islamic law is more vigorous at all,
You
because
wouldn't.
no, because at the end of the day, you're saying that it's acceptable for children to have sex, and no matter how you
No.
dress it
Listen to what I'm
up.
saying. Under
Can you
Islamic
let
law,
me
you have to be
finish?
1 second. So
Oh.
listen, under Islamic law, right? Listen to me, James. Listen to me. Under Islamic law, you have to be physically of age. That's one criteria, as Zeeshan mentioned. Second criteria, you have to be mentally mature. Now that's subjective, of course, but as I've said already, that's why I asked you that question. There are plenty of young boys and men that I've seen, younger girls and boys that I've seen that I would say they're mature beyond their years, and I've seen plenty that are nowhere near the level of maturity to even be to even be going to first base. Never mind having sex.
Right.
But yet in the UK they say no. Once you hit 16, that's it. You go have sex as much as you want because you're ready for it.
Well, yeah,
What's
because
more rigorous, their system or our system? I would argue their system.
well, if you actually let me get a word in without interrupting me, I might be able to answer the bloody question.
Go on then.
Can I answer now? Am I
Yeah.
afforded the
Go on.
opportunity to speak? In like I said, I don't believe that 16 is the right age for legal consent to have sex. I think it should be 18 personally. Secondly, I'm a bit uncomfortable with this conversation. I'm in a conversation with two people that are pretty much trying to advocate for grown men marrying children, and I don't think it's
I've not
acceptable.
said
So
that.
just let me
I
say
haven't even,
this.
I haven't
Hold
even
on, hold on.
insinuated that.
So what I want to say to Zeeshan is, Zeeshan, would you let your 9-year-old daughter marry a 50-year-old man? Answer yes or no. Would you let your daughter, if she was mentally ready and she'd started her periods, would you let your 9-year-old daughter marry a 50-year-old man?
According to the prophetic criteria, no.
Pardon?
According to the criteria set by the Prophet Muhammad, no.
So why no, when you've just said that it's acceptable a minute ago?
Because you're not listening, James.
Apologise for interruptions, guys. James,
Yeah.
just 1 point. For the last 15, 20 minutes, do you mind if I bring some people up for the last 20 minutes?
Mate, it's 25 past 3 in the
I
morning.
know,
I'd
so that's
rather,
what I'm
I
asking.
tell you what, I tell you what, I'd rather just do the last 10 minutes with Zeeshan because he'd asked me a question about slavery. I'd like to answer that, and then I am going to have to shoot because it's like half
So you
3 in
can't,
the
can we not
morning.
just bring some other people just for the last 15, 20 minutes, no?
Well, let me answer the question about slavery, and yeah,
Go
I
on then.
suppose so. Right, Zeeshan. So you were talking about what was it in regards to in slavery, where I was saying that blacks should be grateful for slavery? Was that the point of contention that you had?
It was a video that you did in which you said blacks should be grateful for slavery. Were
Yes.
it not for slavery, they would be dancing around a fire in Africa, sacrificing babies. Wait, they're still doing that. And saying that, yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let me answer that. Yeah, every black that is in the West now, they should be grateful for slavery, because if it wasn't for slavery, they wouldn't be in the West, would they? They'd still be living in mud huts in Africa. Now, when we
Wow,
wait, hold on.
wow,
When
wow,
we talk about,
wow.
and let's be clear here. It was other Africans that were selling Africans into slavery. It was Africans that were selling other Africans to the Jewish ship owners, who were then transporting the slaves over to the New World. See, the problem that I have with slavery is that everybody bangs on about the transatlantic slave trade and how it's white people that are responsible for the majority of all slavery, when we neglect two really important facts. Number one, the majority of the ship owners were Jewish, and they were the ones that were making the profits off it. And number two, everybody talks about the transatlantic slave trade, but nobody talks about the trans-Saharan slave trade and the fact that Muslims were the biggest slave traders in the world, and there is still slavery operating in Islamic countries such as Libya. So for me, you can't use the slavery stick to beat white people when every other race and civilization on this planet has been enslaved and has enslaved people.
Right,
They
James,
hold on, let me finish,
all
please.
right, all
They
right.
use slavery as a stick to beat us with, to make us. They want white people to feel guilt for the achievements of our
So,
ancestors. Hold on,
so,
please, right? They want us to feel the guilt. So they're trying to tie us to something that's immoral and something that's wrong. At the end of the day, it was Britain that was the first country in the world to abolish slavery. White British men gave up their lives to free slaves. Me, you, Johnny, and the majority of people that are in this spaces now have directly contributed to ending slavery with our contributions in tax. We
right,
paid off.
James.
Hold on. We paid off the slavery debt, right? So this whole argument of, oh, Britain needs to pay reparations for slavery. No, we don't. If anything, white British people should be paid reparations for having to live among Africans, Arabs, and Indians. We should be paid reparations for having our people slaughtered on the altar of political correctness and mass migration. So, if anybody should be getting any sort of financial compensation, it should be native Europeans for having to put up with feral, violent, barbaric third worlders that have come to Europe with revenge on their minds. So, I will not ever talk down the achievements of my ancestors to make brown and black invaders feel happy. No white guilt here. I am
All right,
proud
James,
of
James,
my
I'm gonna have to
achievements of
stop you
my
there. No,
ancestors.
James, I'm
Yeah, so Britain, when he's talking about that, Britain had a major role in actually creating the problem. Then they became the main supplier of the slaves. In fact, 40% of slaves were transported by British ships. So I don't know what he's talking about. That's the first thing. Second thing, when he's talking about reparations, the question is, who are those reparations being paid for by the taxpayers? And if we didn't pay our taxes, then we get a knock on the door, then our finances, we were literally coerced to pay taxes and reparations to who? To the slave owners, not to the people that were actual slaves. That's the second point. Third point is the actual value. Yeah, the actual value was 47 million. That was the slaves owned by Brits. They were valued at 47 million. And yes, what you paid for, what I paid for, what we all paid for were for the slave drivers, and that was 20 million. The 27 million that made up the rest of the shortfall was that slaves had to work for free for 4 years to cover the rest of the 27 million. So whoever's told you this stuff hasn't done a good job, because you've just made up a lot of stuff. This is in basic books and basic literature that I advise you to look at.
so Stanfield and Marlo, just 1 second. Carry on, Zeeshan.
Yeah, so there were some other things that I wanted to know. I mean, you know mentioned your points. I've responded to that. There were some other points as well that I wanted to flag up. There was actually a post that you put up. I don't know if you remember. It was a woman in a niqab, and you posted "bombs away." Yeah, but I don't know if you're aware that that post or that picture was actually of my auntie, who was wearing a niqab on a ride at a theme park. And to give you some context, she was somebody that had been physically and verbally abused numerous times because of her religion, which of course you may or may not care, but that she's chosen to follow. Her father died a couple of weeks before this picture was taken, and she had finally mustered up the courage to get out of the house, and only to go back home and see that that picture had been put up with far right people, race baiting people, putting that out there. And yeah, so that was disappointing to see, to be honest, but it is what it is, isn't it?
Are you being
I'm serious. That was
serious?
my aunt in a niqab.
Why is that funny though? But why, James? Why is that funny? Why is that funny?
Bombs away.
Why is that funny though? Why is that funny though?
You lot need
Bro,
to
Johnny,
take a
this
joke.
Johnny,
It's the internet. It's
this
satire.
is what I said, Johnny. I don't
No.
want to.
There's some things that are satire. Some
Wait,
things that are
Johnny,
funny. There's some
one
things that are
sec.
just not funny. When
Johnny.
you're a Muslim, 1 second, Stanfield. When you're a Muslim,
Hold on, I'm drowning in brown tears here. Hold on,
Oh
let me
my
just get
God,
my breath.
Yo, Johnny,
I can't
Johnny,
breathe.
So-
this is what John. 1 second, Johnny. This is what I'm saying. I'm not even on this shouting thing today.
All right, James. I had a question, yeah, because obviously you're somewhat veiled, no pun intended, aware of the control that Israel has over the UK and US, and to what level. But I haven't seen you talking about that. Why is that? What would happen to you if you spoke against it?
Sorry, you've not seen me speak out against Jews? Have you not missed the past 4 years of my life where they?
That's not what I said.
Well,
I
hold
said
on, no, because
I said
this
the
is
Israeli
important.
control over
hold on.
UK.
I speak about the hostile occupying foreign forces, both on the ground and in government as well. It's disingenuous for you to say that because of Zionist hate groups. That's partly the reason that I don't have access to my daughter anymore, because of those scumbags ringing the police up and making up nefarious reports of anti-Semitism because I'd spoken out about Jewish power. So don't ever misconstrue it that I don't speak about the Zionist power regime, because I do, and I've paid the price for it as well. So please don't be disingenuous when you know that isn't true. I've spoken out about it and I've debated people about it. So I've been more than frank and honest about that. I don't believe that the UK should be sending arms to Israel. I don't believe that the RAF should be flying reconnaissance missions for Israel.
Okay.
For me,
and that's fair enough. And I'm sorry to hear that they've done that. You said to your family, right?
Yeah, my daughter.
Yeah, that's not good. I think Johnny said something similar at the start of this conversation, that he's getting doxxed by certain Zionists as well. But the actual point that I was saying was the control of Israel over UK politics. And the
yeah,
UK
100%. All of the politicians in the UK have been bought off. That's why, if you look at all, especially in regards to, if you look at the American political system, all presidents or potential presidential candidates have to get the rabbi's blessing. And it's the same in the UK as well. Special interest groups always promote Jewish people over the natives, and this is the problem on the right as well. This is the biggest division on the right, is because your Civnats are pro-Israel and they believe that the UK should be helping Israel and we should be going to war with Hamas on behest of Israel.
Just to let you know, James, I brought Michael up on. Michael is on, I would say, your team, for a better phrase, okay? Just so you don't think I'm like a bully.
No, it's fine. But in regards to the Israeli situation,
I think, yeah, it's good if you just let me and James speak, and then we'll see how it goes afterwards, because I think too many cooks spoil the broth.
I agree.
So with the Israeli thing, my personal opinion on Israel is, look, back in the day, 7 years ago, when I first started my activism, when I was, when I used to think that Tommy Robinson was a force for good, I was walking around London with Avi Yemeni on my shoulders and I was advocating for Israel, right? And then you go away from it, you do a bit of research, you read some books, and you look into the fact that, why am I promoting a group of people that don't have my best interest at heart? Because at the end of the day, if you go to Tel Aviv, you go to Haifa, you go to Jerusalem, you look at the way that Christians are treated in Israel, and there'll probably be Israelis in here or Jews in here that won't like this, but it's true. Christians are treated like second-class citizens in Israel. They're spat on. We're told that Jesus is it burning in a vat of shit in hell. So for me, I'm against people like Tommy Robinson instructing our movement to become pro-Zionist, because I think the biggest hypocrisy of all of it is, oh, the Jews are entitled to their own homeland. Okay, can the same be applied for white British people? Am I allowed to campaign for my ethnic homeland? No, you're not. You're part of history. You know, so the Jews, they're the ones that are, for me, the way I look at it is they're stirring the pot even more between the Christians and the Muslims. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want a country full of Muslims, but at the same time, the only if every the way I look at it is, if I was in power, I'd pull all British troops out of all foreign countries, and then I'd come to some sort of an agreement with all of the foreigners in the UK where they could be repatriated to their homeland and they could be financially compensated.
But James, just on that, just to push back on that point, right? We live in a country now that is obviously multicultural and very diverse. I'm not
Wait,
saying that
Johnny,
wait one
Johnny,
second.
before you get into that, because James he's on a specific path, and we don't
Okay.
want to derail that
Yeah,
conversation.
okay.
So James, if I'm not mistaken, I think back in the days, I don't know how your relationship is now with Jada Franson. Are you more aligned with her or not
Yeah,
so
mates
much?
with Jada.
Okay, because you've seen Jada obviously interact with Muslims like Dilly from Five Pillars, and she's engaged with the Muslim mom and the like. So there is that back and forth, of course. And I'm sure you also understand as well that there are powers that be that are trying to incite differences between Christians and Muslims, because obviously there's more similarities than differences. You're on board with that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, good, fantastic. So I think this is a good way to kind of draw towards a conclusion, because at least we end on commonalities. And I thought I'd just tell you a few other stuff. Maybe it might be good for your research. Maybe you know this stuff already. But when it comes to Israeli interference in not only UK politics but UK institutions, there's a company called Oracle which handles data for the Ministry of Defense, the Home Office, and the NHS, and is founded by Larry Ellison, who was a friend of Netanyahu, who in fact offered him directorship and is the largest funder of Friends of the IDF Army. If the police were to ever stop you here in the UK, whether it's you or me, James, they would use something called Celebrite. And Celebrite is used to hack phones. It's actually an Israeli intelligence company headed by people from Unit 8200. And the CEO, get this, claims that they have remote control access to all information. And you also got nice systems that police and British Foreign Office use. And it's a subsidiary of Israel's largest weapons company, Elbit Systems. So the Israeli kind of net, or its infiltration of UK is done in a very deep level. You did mention the politics, but I wanted to draw your attention towards this as well. Is there something that you would post on, or do you feel that based on what they did with your family, you're less inclined towards posting about this?
No, I'll speak about it because I'm safe now. Well, apart from the fact that we've got loads of Israeli tourists over here in Thailand kicking off, causing issues. The fact that we had 30,000 up in the north, there's been major problems going on with Israeli tourists in Thailand. Yeah, I'll speak about everything if I'm being honest with you. There's nothing that I won't shy away from speaking about. At the end of the day, they got my daughter taken off me along with those other scumbags. So I'm out here in Thailand with my 3-year-old son, making sure that he's brought up right and he's not subjected to any of the LGBT transgender nonsense that he'd get in the UK. I take a lot of shit for living outside of the UK, and it wasn't a decision that I wanted to make. But ultimately, it came to the point where I couldn't look at my family anymore and see the pain that they were going through because of people that had a problem with me. When you've got people that have come up to your house and spray painted Goddard Nazi dead man on your house and all over your estate when your son's just been born.
Yeah.
So that's why I had to get out the UK to put to put my family first. It does frustrate me because I'd love nothing more than to be back in the UK. And people that do know me know that if I was, my ban from Parliament's finished now, I'd be down confronting all the politicians again. Like, the difference between me and all of these, well, not all of the other ones, but the majority of the talking heads that you see on the internet that monetize the suffering of our people, I've earned my stripes. I've been out there. I've done one-man protest against hundreds of people. I've confronted politicians, police officers, all of these people. I'm not like these shit accounts like Inevitable West and all these other ones that are
He's an
using the
Indian.
suffering. Yeah, but they're using the suffering of my people to make
Yeah.
money. And there's other accounts like it that have just appeared. They're all the same things. They're all anonymous. They all talk about the same stuff, but yet not one of them will mention the Zionist power structure, which is very interesting to note.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I'm out here. It's not. There's nothing to do with me. If I didn't have a family,
Careful, James. You're starting to sound like a human being.
I am a human being. You just don't like some of my viewpoints. And the thing is, I'd say this to people's face. How I am on the internet is how I am in real life. And I believe that I've got a different perspective.
James, I got one more question.
Go on,
I think we're ending on a kind of civil note, which I think is always productive. We should always end on a note that we can pick up some other time, maybe in person if you were ever to come down, or maybe online again. But one question that I was wondering about was that do you believe that if there are more white people living in an area than ethnic minorities, that place will have less crime?
Depending on the socio-economic status of the white people that live there, yeah, depending. If it's a rundown in a city bit like parts of Manchester that you get, then I'd probably say no. It'd be probably some. I mean, some of the rundown places are as bad as some of the places that are full of immigrants. I believe a lot of it has to do with class as well. And I
Yes.
don't mean that in a way. I'm working class. I'm not middle class or anything. But there are certain places in the UK. That you wouldn't want to go down, as a white person.
Yeah.
I can think of places in Leicester as well. So, but I do think that having concentrations of foreign ghettos, which is basically what we've got. I mean, if you look at my home city, for example, Leicester, it's completely divided. You've got Belgrave, which is the Golden Mile, mini India area. You've got St Matthews, which is Somalian. You've got Narborough Road, which is all your Eastern Europeans. Evington, Highfields, which is more your Pakistani Muslims. So for me, I think
that's more nuanced, and it's good you've said that. That's why I mean I was curious to know your view, because I did get a bit of that flavor from some of your tweets, but then of course the other tweets I was unsure. So I agree with that as well, that it's more of a class issue as opposed to religion or skin color, because there's ample example. For example, if you look in the London borough of Harrow, it's 15.9% Muslim. That's 1 in 6 people that are Muslim, yet Harrow has consistently recorded some of the lowest crime rates in London. And it's got a very good reputation. But on the flip side, if you look at some white areas, Blackpool is 92% white. However, it has high unemployment, lowest male life expectancy in the UK, and it's the most dangerous town in Lancashire. And not to mention, of course, Middlesbrough, Teesside is 88% white, but there's mass unemployment. 1 in 3 people is jobless, 107% more than the national average. So yeah, I'm glad you think of it like that, because unfortunately, yeah, there are certain people that try to make it seem like it's completely, these people that have come and they've done this. It's important to be nuanced with these discussions. Otherwise, certain people will just weaponize this rhetoric, and they just go and start causing a nuisance and a nightmare.
Right.
Yeah, so that was it. What are your thoughts about what I said that last time?
Yeah and no. Like I said, if you do look at some of the places in the UK that have got high migrant populations, and I think you have to make a distinction between the people that have come, say, in the past 20 years, and perhaps people like your parents, Zeeshan, because there is a difference, and this is something that's not spoken about enough on this side, and that is that we do have to accept that the Queen, the British government, they invited people from India, from Pakistan to come over to the UK to work to rebuild the country.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying the difference is. The majority of people that have come over the past 20 years, whether they be via small boats or whether they've flown into the UK legally and then claimed asylum when they've got here, all of them are here because they want something. There's a difference. Your parents came here because they wanted to work and they wanted to make money and they wanted to give you lot a better life, right? I accept that. I don't agree with it, but I accept it. these lot that have come over in the past 20 years, they're not interested in working. They're interested in taking as much for free as possible. And I know a couple of people that have spoken out about that as well. I don't think that we should be this country where we're providing aid, shelter, food, and money to people that have come into the country that have got no right to be here. Ultimately, that's what creates the hatred as well. Because when you've got the inequality of seeing native families that are struggling as well as your elderly, you know, Britain needs to sort its own problems out before it's able to offer
Yeah, but James,
help
on
and
that point,
accommodation
on
to
that
the
point,
world.
anybody that comes into the country illegally, they're not entitled to anything. Or it's
Well,
only
they are,
people that
but they are though, because if you're an
no, they're not
asylum
illegal.
seeker,
You're not entitled to anything as an illegal
no,
immigrant.
but
You're here illegally. It's
yeah,
illegal
but
to be here.
right, let me finish this, Johnny, because it's true. If you come into the UK illegally, yeah, you're not technically allowed to work or claim benefits, but you are put into a hotel at the taxpayer's expense. You are fed and clothed at the taxpayer's expense. So they are getting things that they shouldn't be getting. At the end of the day, my policy would be to have the Navy and the Army in the English Channel turning the boats around and sending them back to France. I've said this previously, like, we're an island with finite resources. Many of these people have chose to cross Europe. They've come through a number of safe countries and they've come to the UK because they know it's a soft touch. The migrants are taking advantage of the situation. And I'm not saying, listen, if I was one of them migrants, would I do the same? Probably, yeah. If I was told, look, you go to this country, you're going to get put in a hotel, they're going to give you houses, they're going to give you money, they're going to do this, of course you'd do it. But at the end of the day, it's wrong. And we've got so many people that need helping in the UK. We should be helping them. We should be helping the elderly that have contributed to the system their entire life. And we don't. We turn our backs on the elderly. We put them in care homes and then leave them, you know, at the mercy of these African carers that in many cases abusing them. And I know you won't like that, Johnny, but it's true. You know, you only have
That's
to
not. Well, that's not true though.
Yeah, not in
That's
many
not
cases.
true.
Some cases.
It's maybe
a
some
lot
cases,
of
but many
cases.
cases.
A lot of cases.
All right, James. I'll drop off now then. Thanks for your time and take care. Yeah.
No problem. Take care.
Thank you very much for your time tonight, Zeeshan. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for organizing it, Johnny,
No
and
problem, mate.
hopefully we touch base again